I've got something really cool to share with you today. I might have found an antique witch bottle in my backyard. Maybe. Either way, I'm going to show you how to make your own protective witch bottle at home. Coming right up. Okay, so I've got some stuff here on the table. We were doing a little backyard archaeology. We've got a really old house. This is a 100-year-old house. And every winter, the ground freezes and thaws and freezes and thaws. And as it does, it pushes up bits of glass all over the place, which we found a bunch of. We were just doing some yard work because the weather was nice, and every year when that happens, Dan goes out down to the area where he knows there's a lot of glass, and he basically starts pulling up whatever he can find, you know, just because he doesn't want anybody to get cut. This looks like some antique milk glass. And we also found this really cool wing. Dan found that. You never know what you're gonna find back there, but we found some pretty cool, I mean, some of these are really old. This one, I am not sure what that says, but maybe somebody else can make that out, and you maybe can tell what that is. It's kind of cool. We threw away a lot. I kept the bottoms of these. This one just says wine. This one says Durla's. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but anyway. I'm gonna look up how old that is, and I'll post it here on the video. But that's definitely old. So that kind of dates the stuff that's down there. We're really not sure how all of these things ended up busted at the end of the yard, but it did. And one of the things that Dan found when he was digging around there, he was kind of excited. He's like, hey, look at this little bottle I found. And this is the little bottle that he found. I cleaned it up the best I could, but I decided just to leave some of that, and I'll explain why in a minute. Also inside of this bottle, and there's no screw top on this, so whatever this bottle was used for, it had like a stopper, okay? The other stuff that was inside this bottle was this, which I recognized immediately. I was like, this is a bottle of mercurochrome, because back in the day when we were little kids, and I was like a little kid in the 70s running around, every time we hurt ourselves, our parents had this magical elixir called mercurochrome, and they would dip it into the stuff, and then they would paint it onto your injury. Okay, here's the thing though, it had mercury in it. Granted, it didn't have a ton of mercury, but that's how they did it back then. You know, at first glance I thought, oh, well, you know, it's just an old mercurochrome bottle. And this was like all black and everything. So, but the other thing is, there was something else inside of the bottle, and it was this nail. And this is a really old nail. Immediately, I said to Dan, did we find a witch bottle, an actual witch bottle? Is a classic method for home protection from bad energy and malevolent magic. And it goes back centuries and centuries. They find witch bottles in archaeological digs in America and in Europe. They're very well-known practice. And basically what people would do is they would take a bottle, any bottle, and you know, if you want to make one at home, you don't have to use this kind. You can use like a bottle like this. I found some really cool ones at the dollar store that you can use. Any little bottle will do. All right, and then essentially what they would do with these is they would fill it up with all kinds of pointy, sharp things and maybe some herbs for magical protection and stuff like that. They would add urine. Not everybody wants to add urine. You know, some people are a little squeamish about that. Some people probably just don't have very good aim. The point of all of that was the pointy, sharp things are meant to symbolically point their sharp energy towards anything negative that wants to come to you. And then the urine is almost like a marker, like how we think of animals marking their territory kind of thing. And it also connected the bottle to the home owner or the person who is living in the home. In that way, it was kind of like, you know, tying them energetically to the bottle. So here's the thing, when we found this, it didn't have a cork on it. These old mercurochrome bottles, oftentimes, this is called a dauber, and the little dauber is actually attached to a rubber or a cork stopper that would go in this, right? But this is definitely an old one because it doesn't have a screw top. The ones that we had back in the 70s had a screw top, and this one is not designed that way. This is designed for a cork, so that does date it going way back. I mean, we're talking like 30s, 40s. And then the nail was in it. But here's the thing, okay? It was under the ground, and the seal was broken. So, you know, a lot of people would say, well, I wouldn't want to mess with a witch bottle or open it. The truth is, the seal was broken. The magic was already dispersed. Is it possible that somebody back in the day decided to make a witch bottle out of a cast-off mercurochrome bottle when it was empty and left the stopper in it as the way to close it up and put the nail in it and some other things which have since rotted or washed away? Possibly, but maybe not. Okay, chances are it's just a discarded mercurochrome bottle that ended up in the yard somehow. It's possible that from shifting and moving that maybe the nail was discarded nearby and ended up working its way into the bottle. I don't have any way to prove that this was actually an old witch bottle, but whether it was or not, I don't care because I'm gonna turn it into one. So if somebody back then decided to do what I think possibly they did and turn this into an old witch bottle, I'm going to bring it into our time and add mine to it as well and put it back on the property to guard it. If not, then I'm taking an old bottle that I found in the yard and turning it into a witch bottle. Either way, I think it's kind of cool, and we will get started on making your own witch bottle. You can follow my technique and you can make a witch bottle too, the same way that I'm doing it. It doesn't have to be an antique bottle. It could be any bottle that you find. And there's a lot of different items that you can put into these too. So we'll talk about that as well. First things first, I want to cleanse this bottle, and I'm just gonna use my little herbal cleanse here. There we go. All of the little parts, the dauber, all of that. The birds are singing. The cork that I whittled out of a bigger cork. Nail to. I'm gonna bring you in a little closer so that you can watch step by step how I do this. That way you can make your own at home if you want to. Okay, so I have a black candle burning here. I'm gonna try to use the wax from this black candle to seal this when we're finished, so. It's pretty simple, basically. All we're gonna do is we're going to take our bottle and we're gonna put these items in it. I'm gonna leave this in it because I think it's kind of cool. Plus it's sharp, pointy glass, so I think that counts as the kind of thing you could put in a witch bottle. We're gonna drop that in there. Our antique nail that we originally found in the bottle, pop that in there. I have 3 cloves, which if you've watched some of my other videos, you know they're pretty protective. So I'm going to drop these 3 cloves into my bottle. It'll go in. There we go. I might have to put these things in last, honestly, because it's a pretty small opening. So let's go ahead and drop these 3 cloves in there. I have a little tiny hunk of garlic. It's a little garlic clove that kind of got dried up, and I think it's just about the right size for this tiny bottle, so I'm going to throw that in there. If you don't have garlic, fresh garlic, you can use just powdered garlic if you have that. That's not a problem. I want to put some sea salt, and I have this big chunky sea salt, so I'm going to drop some of that in there because sea salt is super protective. There we go. All right. Also, sharp pointy things are good, and I liked the glass. We actually found some blue glass, but I busted some up, and what I did was I put it in a Ziploc bag and basically hit it with a hammer until I had enough little pieces to use. So I don't want to cut my hands, so I am just going to grab a few of these with these little needle nose pliers and drop them in there. Also, blue glass traditionally is very protective. We see what they call bottle trees that they use in the Ozarks for folk magic to keep away any kind of baneful magic. And I don't know, maybe that's something we can look at doing in the future, is a bottle tree. I've actually seen them in the area. There was a neighborhood we were driving through once, and they had a bottle tree in the front yard, and I recognized it right off. I was like, holy cow, that's a bottle tree. But you know what? We're not super far from the Ozarks, so some of those traditions probably have carried over. That's a pretty good amount of blue glass in there, so it doesn't have to be blue glass. If you have a broken mirror, that's a great thing to use. Anything really like that. Anything sharp and pointy, basically, is really good to put in your witch bottle. If you have roses, you can take the thorns off of those, or any kind of thorny bush. Those are really great to use. Now, I have some pins, and one of the things that some people do is they bend them up. And you know what? I kind of like that idea, so I'm going to bend up a few pins to put in there as well. If this was actually ever used for a bottle like this, I don't know what was in it, but this is how I'm going to do it, because I'm adding my own, you know, my own little ow thing. There we go. Another one. You can put any protective herbs that you like in these bottles, and you can put anything that's sharp and pointy in these bottles, and honestly, you can put anything that you feel drawn to put in these bottles. There's no steadfast rule. Okay, so that's pretty good. As you can see, it's got lots of sharp pointies in there. All right, so I'm going to add there's another little piece of salt. I'll drop that in there. I'm going to add the dauber from the mercurochrome. We can get that down in there. Oh yeah, that's going to go down nicely. And then I'm going to add the antique nail that we found in it. There. Okay. So I know it's down in there good. All right, and there is what's in my witch's bottle. All right, so I am not going to use urine for this one, kind of because ew. That's a little bottle, man. That would be the most horrible urine sample ever. So here's a great alternative. This is just white vinegar. So we're gonna throw some white vinegar in there. And let's see if Mickie can manage to not spill it everywhere. We will find out. Oh, that's pretty good, actually. Look at that, I did all right. Now it's full of white vinegar. Now, I'm gonna pour a little tiny bit out, because here's another thing that you can do. If you feel like you want to add that little bit of yourself into it, to add that extra kind of bit of protection and that connection to yourself, you can spit in it. We're not going to watch that because ew, but hang on. I did not put my mouth on that because, again, mercurochrome is kind of gross, so, and I don't know. So anyway, there it is. That looks kind of cool. It's pretty little, it's actually cool. It's actually kind of pretty in a weird witchy way, which most of my favorite things are kind of pretty in a weird witchy way. So anyway, we're gonna cork this bad boy. There we go. Let's see if I can get that cork to go in there. All right, I think that's gonna work pretty good. Okay. There it is. Here's my witch bottle. It's kind of cool. Okay. The next thing that you want to do is to seal it so that that cork doesn't come out. I actually have some sealing wax here, but I kind of wanted to show you guys a way that you can do it without having to go buy special ingredients, because you know that's kind of our thing, right? If you have sealing wax, definitely use it. This is nice because it's actually a harder wax than candle wax, but for our purposes we're going to go ahead and use some candle wax. And I've had this burning for a little bit, so I've got a good pool in there. I hope there's enough. We're going to give it a shot. All right, I'm just gonna kind of dip it in there. I think that'll work. I don't know, you and I, we're on this journey together, so let's just find out how we do, okay? It's probably gonna put it out. Yeah, I put the candle out. That's well, no, it didn't put the candle out. It's gonna though. I think it's gonna. So I'm just dipping it, and then I'm gonna let it dry for a minute. And then I'm gonna dip it again and let it dry for a minute, and dip it again and let it dry for a minute until I build up layers. You know how like you used to do with your finger in your mom's candles when you were a kid that she hated? Come on, you guys know you did that. I did that. Anyway, it shouldn't take too much. It's starting to come together. All right. The candle's still burning, so that's kind of cool. And it's going to drip down the side a little bit. We don't mind that. A lot of people would bury this. My initial intention was to bury this, but honestly, it's turning out kind of cool. So I don't know if I really want to bury it. You don't have to. You can just put them in your house. I want that wax to dry. That's a good mess. I like that. There it is, my antique witch bottle. Well, the sun is setting in the west, and we put together a really beautiful little witch bottle. I'm very pleased with that. What do you think? Pretty cool, right? I was gonna bury this, but I don't think I have the heart. It's just too cool, and it's too cool of a story. So I'm just gonna keep it inside the house and let it do its magic and keep our house safe and protected. Maybe I'll add a little charm to it or something. A lot of times, like I said, people will bury these in the yard. Sometimes they will put them in, bury them under the house. Some of the ones that have been found on archaeological digs were actually built into the foundation of the house. You know, or hidden behind the fireplace or built into the masonry, which is kind of cool too. So yeah, I mean, if I ever built a house, I think I would definitely do that. But anyway, there's my little witch bottle. Later on that evening, I went ahead and charged it with my intention. I just visualized pushing protective energy into it, and I brought the candle that we used to cover the top, and I let it finish burning down and left it sit on my pinnacle to charge up. And that's really all there is to it. You know what? Let me know down in the comments if you guys think that you might make a witch bottle as well to help ward your house. Coming up on my next video, I'm going to share a bunch of other ways for you to ward your house. This is a really cool one, but I have a lot of other ways too, so I'll be sharing that on my next video, so definitely come back for that. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and that notification bell too, because if you do that, then you'll know right away when I upload my next video, so you won't miss a thing. If you enjoyed joining me while we made our very own little witch bottle, make sure you hit the thumbs up down there and drop me a comment. Let's talk about witch bottles in the comments. Have you ever made one? Do you think it's something that you're going to try doing? And what kind of things do you think you might put in yours? I think everybody would like to know. So join the conversation down in the comments. Here's a couple more videos that I think you guys might enjoy, so definitely check those out. And come and see me next time when we talk about warding your house. Thanks so much for joining me here on the back porch. And remember, as always, to be your magic. Bye, guys.